To test software. In a nutshell, our job is to infiltrate large financial market infrastructures with our tools to influence the outcome of the software development lifecycle. We've been working on altering the standards of what is feasible from the time to market and the software quality perspective. We have been able to implement this strategy across the globe. But even in the most critical, robust, and reliable large infrastructures, we constantly encounter a phenomenon called fake testing. Does anyone have any idea on what fake testing is? Please raise your hand and give any answers. Thank you very much. Okay, it can happen anywhere around you, so how can we define it? The most obvious way is to label all software testing you are not happy with as fake testing. To a certain extent, it is what I'm doing in this presentation. Software testing is an information service. It is providing objective and independent information about software quality. Fake testing is activities that can look like testing, but it has some other purpose. Software testing is shifting from the center to the poles. DevOps and early testing are both great. Let's consider the extremes, though. On the far right of the spectrum, software is pushed into production, regardless of its quality, to be tested by the end users and operations teams. On the far left, the focus is on all the good things, such as trust, teamwork, and internal processes. Fake testing is actions aimed at making one feel good about software quality. It is when bias distorts actions, and they are reported in very specific ways. But facts do not care about your feelings. Software testing is a relentless learning. By the way, it means that good automated testing is machine learning. It's said that true journalism means uncovering things that someone else would like to keep hidden. The rest is public relations. But for everyone who is not really interested in discovering new and painful information about the software, the following slides will contain a few helpful tips on how to fake software testing projects. Pay attention, there will be some horrible examples of inflicted self-harm, because fake testing can kill. We are working very hard on attracting the best talent into the software testing and have managed to build a team of more than 500 specialists so far. At one point in the process, Litvinenko, co-founder and co-CEO of Exactpro, was asked, "What is so attractive about the software testing as a profession? There are no movies that portray software testers as superheroes saving the world." But after some research, he was able to find at least one. Have you ever heard about the film called The Pentagon Wars? Please raise your hand if you have. Okay. 2 people. Okay, I do recommend watching it, but please be aware of spoilers ahead, because this film outlines what the fake testing is very accurately. The film tells the story of a Bradley M2 fire machine, live fire tests around it, and the Congress hearings that followed. The protagonist of the story, Colonel Burton from the Air Force, is appointed to oversee a testing process of an M2 machine carried out by the Army. After the first test, he suspects that inferior ammunition was used to conduct the experiment. In our practice, we constantly see it, even with the best vendors of trading software. For example, if a vendor provides a test injector, most of the time it is designed in a way that would reduce harm, e.g. send messages at very precise intervals. Let's go back to the movie. To reduce the weight of the tank, a part of a plate was made out of aluminum. It appeared that when it is heat, then the thin layer of aluminum evaporates and a poisonous gas is produced. To test for this fact, our hero decided to put sheep into the tank. He was told that it would take many months to prepare just the right sheep in advance, since all sheep are different, and the testing is a scientific experiment that should be conducted in controlled environments. When requesting all scenarios in advance or trying to apply development methodologies like behavior-driven development, please consider that. This is a classical picture explaining the concept of testability. Put the target on the system to simplify testing. It is essential for any large-scale infrastructures. The film also gives a colorful illustration. At one point, to ensure that a heat-seeking infrared missile successfully hits the target was covered by electrical heaters to produce temperature high enough to fry eggs at 2 meters distance. The system was covered by targets, but the problem was that the system under test was not the tank, but the missile. It is easy to go into this direction with fake testability in large-scale infrastructures, where end-to-end testing requirements demand covering everything: the tank, the missile, the bomb, and even the 2-story tall crane to drop it from. Sometimes development teams create interfaces to improve testability, but all of these interfaces are obscured one way or another. We've had a case when a new sprint delivered lots of functionality, but all of it was only accessible through the internal interfaces that the client wasn't able to use. Colonel Burton discovers that water is used instead of gasoline during the testing. When he confronts his colleagues about it, they tell him it is too dangerous to use gasoline because it can blow up. Is it not the point? Exactpro's view is that non-functional tests should result in breaking the system rather than going to any predefined and agreed load level. But on many occasions, we were receiving complaints that the system under test should not die. Okay, before I go to the next slide, I want to ask you something. How do you think what is the world's most valuable commodity nowadays? All answers are welcome. Please raise your hand and answer. Yeah. Okay. Any other ideas? The world's most valuable commodity. Electricity. Okay. Anything else? Cats. Okay. Thank you very much for your responses, but the world's most valuable commodity nowadays is not cats, not air, not electricity, not oil, but data. With GDPR and all other limitations, the desire to put water into the fuel tank is stronger than ever. So are you on a path to fake testing? Fake information works best when it ignores everything that happened before. In many cases, we've observed a creation of test plans based solely on news stories in the quality center. One test per requirement, followed by claims that this way the traceability compliance requirements are satisfied. As a result, with every new sprint or release, one will have new test plans and scenarios, and there is no consistency in test execution. When there are no good automated regression, people also try to fake it by using parallel runs to play the same data against the previous and the current release. The narrative is right, but the facts are frequently wrong. The best way to obscure the information is to hide it under the pile of paper. The parallel run produces huge volumes of data, and usually there are many breaks or exceptions in concurrent distributed systems. Once you go down the road of ignoring them, you do not know really where you are. If you talk about a complex post-trade system with 80 interfaces, developing a test harness capable of going through all the permutations under the load requires building sophisticated software. It is impossible to disseminate this function between small sub-teams stored in the prisons of their own scrums. It reflects the law of requisite variety that states the number of states should be no less, the number of states for test harness should be no less than the number of states for the system under test. To ensure that test harness is up to the task, we run a parallel software development process outlined on this slide. As you may see, we have deliberate practice of software testing in the center. We have test harness owner. He understands and prioritizes clients' requirements. We have team leaders. They facilitate internal and external interactions. We have subject matter experts. They work with the system and existing testing artifacts. We have automation developers. They create and validate automated tests. We have code development team. They enhance test tools and test framework. We also have environment DevOps. They configure test environments and unattended test execution. They say exitus acta probat. The result confirms the actions. Fake testing will always result in fake coverage, and still this practice is adopted quite often. But why would anyone consider killing KA capabilities at all and rely on fake testing? Fake information travels fast. Sometimes it leads to destructive memes, repeatable ideas and practices, making you feel good instead of doing good. Here is a very tragic historical parallel. In the 19th century, the Xhosa tribe in South Africa believed a young girl who claimed to have free spirits that requested Xhosa people to slaughter all their cattle and to destroy all their corn. If they did, the red sun would rise and new cattle would appear. It is assumed that Xhosa started to think that they were the descendants of the Russians who had defeated the Englishmen in the Crimea. Of course, it was not the case, and the red sun never appeared. Initially, they blamed it to not following the process and only intensified the effort. Was it irrational behavior or a deliberate plot by one of the involved parties, English governor or tribe chiefs, remains a difficult question. Far-left methodologies and the desire to kill real testing capabilities that are required to produce relevant information are widely spread across our industry. As Anthony Hopkins' character said in Westworld, people do not want to listen and they do not want to change. It looks like I'm complaining about fake testing, but I'm not crying for myself. They say great beasts once roamed this world as big as mountains, yet all that's left of them is bone and ember. One day fake testing will perish. It will lie in the dirt and will turn into sand. And upon that sand, a new thing will ride, one that is not afraid of real testing, because this world belongs to someone who is yet to come. Thank you.
Now time for questions, okay?
Seems no question.
Thank you very much for the presentation. My question is, how do you think maybe sometimes fake testing is better than no testing at all? For example, a situation when we need to test some interface and it's desirable to test it with real data. But real data is top secret, it's too sensitive for a client. And we have no real data, in fact. So in this situation, whether fake testing is better than no testing at all?
Okay, thank you for the question. The situation you have described is not a fake testing, actually, because if you use test data instead of client's data, it's not fake testing. Fake testing is when you think that software is good, but in fact it's not. So if you're talking about some benefits of fake testing comparison to no testing at all, I'm not sure that fake testing can have any benefits. That's it from my side. Thank you for the question again.
Any other question? Okay then, thank you very much for an interesting presentation.